On today's episode of Talk Legal to Me, we have a very special guest, Bjorn Johnson, who is the general manager at TraVek. He talks about TraVek and how it has been in the Valley for 25 years. It is a family-owned company. He also brings a lot of tech background and has built policies and procedures and scalable processes in TraVek's business model. He also has his own podcast, When the Hammer Strikes, which is amazing. You're going to really enjoy this episode. Welcome to Talk Legal to Me, Bjorn. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
Well, you are the general manager of TraVek.
Yep.
And tell me how you got into that.
It's kind of interesting because before I joined TraVek, I had never been a part of the construction industry.
Sure.
I grew up in a small town in Southern Oregon, and we had a small ranch there. And so I'd always worked with my hands, and whether it was splitting firewood or running fences or even fixing the pump at our well, I'd always had a hands-on experience with that sort of thing. But the last 20 years or so, I've actually been in tech.
Okay.
So executive leadership positions with different tech companies. Startups, turnaround companies, and had an opportunity recently, a couple of years ago, to exit from one of those companies and hit a reset button and see kind of what I wanted to do and what industry I wanted to do it in. And TraVek was just super appealing. So moved to Arizona. I've been here for almost 2 years and been with TraVek for that time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me about TraVek and what kind of a company it is and who they serve.
Sure. TraVek is really cool, actually. So in the Valley, you've got so many companies that are doing remodels or roofing. I call them two chucks in a truck. They're running around doing work. TraVek's a family-owned business. They've been around for almost 25 years now in the Valley.
Wow.
And have built a reputation of quality and what we call the ultimate TraVek experience. And so what that means is, you come into our lobby, into our showroom, you're offered a drink, you sit down in a fireplace room, you get to enjoy the beauty of what a remodel can be. Sure. And treating that customer from start to finish with that ultimate TraVek experience stems a lot from a family-owned company.
Right.
Now we've grown since they've started into a pretty impressive company, but tried to really hold on to those core values that you would think that you would have in a family. So it's been awesome.
That's great. And I can attest to that because I've actually visited you and it does feel so homey. And I've been to so many different showrooms and I've been to so many different, contractors' offices, and it just didn't have that feel. But when I came in by you guys do have that fireplace going and it's just really cozy and this feels like home. So
yeah, we try to avoid anybody ever feeling like a number.
Sure.
Right? I mean, remodeling, whether it's your kitchen or bath or you're doing a whole home, it can be stressful enough.
Oh yeah.
And I always tell people we have seminars every month where we invite the community in and we just educate them on what that experience looks like and feels like. We share a meal together. And one thing that I say in that is that, it's your money, it's your dream, it's your home. You deserve to be treated in a certain way because it's going to be stressful. There's going to be friction. It's construction.
Yeah.
So we try to avoid any of that the best we can. And we're not perfect at it, obviously. Sure. But we try to eliminate people feeling like a number.
Awesome. I love that. And it probably makes the experience less stressful, more comfortable, and, just getting that dream home and that dream remodel that they want, feeling warm and cozy about it. So
absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that. And you also have your own podcast.
Yeah.
So talk about that. How did you get that started?
That's a great question. We have some initiatives in the business, and when I came into the business, TraVek has such an awesome foundation. And again, they've been in the Valley for almost 25 years now, and doing a lot of things really, really right. Mm-hmm. The brand recognition is really strong. One thing that we wanted to bring to the table was I have a tech background. We wanted to bring some of that tech background into the construction industry, which is a little different.
Yeah.
Part of that was a podcast and this thought leadership initiative to make sure that because training is important to us, because education is important to us, whether it's our internal employees or these community events that we have, we wanted a platform where we could help educate homeowners and other business professionals. And we call this Before the Hammer Strikes. Mm-hmm. And so what every homeowner needs to know before the hammer strikes And realistically, what every business owner needs to know before they send their crews out there to swing a hammer, process-wise, efficiency-wise, structure. And so it's been really fun. And it's a great platform to get that message out there and educate.
I love that.
Yeah.
And how do you pick the guests that you're going to have on? How do you select your guests?
There's so many choices.
Yeah.
You were on our podcast,
Yeah.
which we loved having you, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. It was fun.
Selection process for us, we really want to generate value for our audience and for our listeners. And so if it's somebody that has something to say that homeowners are really going to relate to, that'll help them in this remodeling journey, we want them on our podcast.
Okay.
If it's somebody in the home services industry that has figured out how to build a business better, and how to really scale their business, we want other business professionals to hear insight on, well, this is what not to do. Sharing that knowledge is really important. And then, of course, if somebody's got a great story to tell, we want to hear their story. Again, that experience for us is big. And so we want people to feel it. We want people to have emotion around it. We want people to really not only learn, but have an experience with us on our podcast. And so we try to find guests that can provide that.
That's great. And you're putting out a ton of episodes.
We're trying to.
Okay. How frequent?
So every week we post a podcast, but we're recording 3 a week sometimes.
Sure.
And really just searching for that, again, quality content that's really going to speak to our audience and speak to the members of the community in the Phoenix metro area.
Very cool. And if someone wants to listen, where can they listen to your podcast?
They can go straight to our website. It's www.travek.com. And then there's a link to click on the podcast. But we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on Apple Music, all of the streaming sessions.
I love that. Yeah. I'm definitely a podcast listener. It's like on my commute in to work and picking up my kids and whatnot. And I have listened to your podcast and it's really good.
Oh, thank you.
And you guys have an awesome setup. And I love that you take people from the community, either if they're related to your line of work or just business owners. I've gotten tons of insight. So
good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad it's working.
Yeah. What's a memorable project that you've worked on since starting working with TraVek?
There's been a lot. One thing that's really awesome about what we do is, not every customer is our customer. We're not the least expensive company in town, nor do we want to be.
Right.
And so we get the opportunity to work with a niche group of homeowners that really have a dream. And I think that for me personally, as general manager, things don't always go perfect. And my favorite projects are those that actually things didn't go perfect on, but that our team was able to then hit the reset button and walk down this path with the homeowner to really correct anything that may have gone wrong, and then have this turn out to be exactly what they wanted it to be and what they dreamed it would be. Our model is a little different. So we've got what we call we're a design to build firm, meaning we've got designers that are with the homeowner from start all the way through completion.
That's great.
And their whole job is to step through this process with them. And you may not think it's difficult, but we've got this vision in our head, and they have to then draw that vision out of the homeowner's head and make it look like what they hoped they would see, or what they saw in a magazine or saw on TV.
Sure.
And that's a difficult thing to do. And so sometimes we'll run into an experience where it's like, well, it's not quite what I wanted it to be. And we have the opportunity to make it exactly what they want it to be.
That's so cool.
So I think probably, short answer to that, we had a project where it was a whole home remodel. In the middle of it, the homeowner decided, I want to do some things different, which is kind of scary because we've already got drawings, we've already got plans, we've already got permits.
Yeah.
But we were able to be flexible enough to take out a whole wall that they thought that they wanted to leave, and put glass from floor to ceiling to make this this really cool room in their house. And that was probably one of my favorites, just because there was a little bit of friction, but at the end of it, they're like, we want to have dinner parties, invite your customers to our home. We want to show off what you've done. And it's a beautiful home. But just that whole evolution of the experience for me is something really exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I feel like you guys should have a reality show.
That would be cool. We need to reach out to HGTV or something.
Yeah, I want them to follow you. I'd watch that. I love home remodel shows, and I think that's cool to see what the vision is in the beginning and then how it's brought to life.
Yeah.
So Very cool. Where do you guys get your leads, or how do people hear of you aside from being reputable in the community for so long? How are you guys marketing yourselves?
Yeah, so leads are an interesting thing, and I'm a marketing guy. So
Yeah.
in the tech industry, different titles that I've had are VP of Global Marketing, VP of Global Sales. So marketing for me is a big deal, especially in the seat that I'm in with TraVek right now. And in the home services industry, you hear this talk about, well, leads are low, or we're struggling, and some companies are closing their doors just because they don't have enough leads.
Sure.
Um, for us, it's two-part. One, we've got a great reputation.
Right.
We've been in the Valley a long time, and a lot of our business comes from repeat and referral businesses.
Nice.
But we get a lot of our leads from partners. Relationships are big. And so we invite partners into our space. We host joint events with them.
Sure.
These community events that we have every month are big for people coming and getting educated, sharing that meal with us. And then as they're looking around our showroom, they're like, wow, I want that kitchen. I want this fireplace. And so we get a lot of our leads from events like that and from partnership opportunities. But again, we're doing all the traditional stuff too. We've got Google Ads, and we've got social media and
Sure.
and Meta and things like this. This is great exposure for us, and
Yeah.
and the podcast is a big part of that too.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you guys also do workshops.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk a little bit about that. How you guys choose what you're going to just put on for a workshop. When are they offered? Who's it open to?
Yeah. So on the workshop side of things, we have what we call our TraVek University.
Okay, cool.
And again, part of our thought leadership initiative as a business is not only to educate our internal employees. That's important for us. We want them to be the best trained in the industry because they're going to do better quality work, and homeowners will get a better experience. So we have that piece of it, which is our TraVek Internal University. And so every 2 weeks, we have a training in our training center.
Oh.
It's a book training, if you will, where they'll hear a presentation, they'll go through best practices, and then they'll go out, and we have actual modules in our warehouse where they hands-on can do the work that they've been trained on.
Wow.
Whether that's setting a tub or hanging drywall or whatever it may be, just to hone their craft.
Yep.
And then the other thing that we do is every once in a while we open up to the community and we say, hey, we want to have an event or a night here where we want to invite you to our space. We just had one for the roofing industry, which is a little bit different. We invited our competitors to come to our space.
Wow.
We opened up our showroom, and then we actually trained them on best sales techniques, best practices that way, which people think we're a little crazy for doing. But at the end of the day, the better trained people that are out there that are treating homeowners better, it lifts the entire industry.
Sure.
And so for us, we want to be able to provide workshops for people to get better at their craft, whether that's sales or, roofing production or on the remodeling side, but also for our internal employees to make sure that they're the absolute best trained in the industry.
That's awesome. I love that. I would love to watch one of those.
You're welcome to come along. Bring a camera.
Next
and
one I'm gonna have to come.
Absolutely.
Do you ever take on jobs where people have just botched it and now they're calling you and they're like, we had this company, they're not answering us anymore. Look at the job they did, and you guys go and you make magic?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I always say we don't like to be the one that rides in on our white horse and saves the day, but it happens all the time.
Okay.
I was just sitting down with the Register of Contractors, and we were talking through why do things hit the table? Why do people get in trouble with the Register of contractors?
Yeah.
And what effect does that have on the homeowner? And he was sharing some stories around, unlicensed contractors are a big deal. Anything over $1,500, they have to be licensed.
Okay.
Uninsured contractors. And so we've walked into a few situations where, and if you come to one of our seminars, you'll see it because we show a before and after for a few examples like this.
Yeah.
But we walked in and literally all the walls were gone. There was piles of demo just sitting in their living room. The whole house is torn apart. And this poor woman, she just sat and lived in this house for 3 months without calling anybody because she was so scared to call somebody else after what she just went through.
Oh, no.
And so finally she called us, and we were able to go out and turn this into a beautiful whole home remodel. But there are things that made it challenging. One, the contractor had eaten up almost all of her budget and then just left.
Right.
And then, of course, there's always her being so gun shy about, well, I just lived in this house that was a disaster for the last 3 months. But it turned out great. And her home is beautiful. And we've got some before and afters of her
Very cool.
particular home at that seminar that we show. And so we don't love being that company, but
Sure.
at the end of it, we love the relationship that we gain with the customer and being able to help them out of a really bad situation.
Yeah, I'm sure she's probably singing your praises and wants everyone to come
Yeah.
see her beautiful home
Yeah.
now because she went literally from the dust and trepidation and now you guys came and fixed it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
very cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you a little bit personally. I
Sure.
mean, you have a huge role in the company, but you said you had that tech background.
Hmm.
What kind of like skills or what kind of traits are you bringing in to really take TraVek to the next level?
Yeah. So from my experience, again, it's been heavily focused on marketing, sales, and operations, and different executive level roles in different organizations. And
Okay.
one thing that I love is I'm a builder. Not from a swing and a hammer sort of a standpoint, but
Right.
building processes and building systems that are replicable and scalable.
Okay.
In software or in tech, you have to.
Sure.
Because in order for a product to launch or to get out into market
Yeah.
or to go from zero to acquisition, it has to be scalable. And so bringing that background into a construction industry and looking at all of the different departments within an organization and saying, okay, do we have a process in place? Is there a system that's replicable so that we can make sure that every single time we interact with a customer, it's the same experience and it's a positive experience?
Right.
From the sales and marketing standpoint, the nuts and bolts of that, right? I've been there, done that. And so we can put together programs. I'm very data driven. So I like to let the data drive the decisions. I'm a bit of a data geek when it comes to businesses.
That's great.
I always tell my people data doesn't lie, right?
Yeah,
So
the
you
numbers
can,
don't lie. You're
they
right.
never lie.
No.
You can have a sales rep that says they're going to close X amount of dollars. You can have a third party marketing company that says they're going to bring you X amount of leads. But at the end of the day, the activity and the data around that activity doesn't lie.
Sure.
And so bringing those things into an industry that usually is, well, I was great at swinging a hammer. I decided to start a business. Now I know nothing about how to run the business.
Sure.
Not saying that that's what TraVek is. TraVek's got an awesome foundation. And so one of the things that appealed most to me about TraVek is that they had a lot of that stuff figured out.
Yeah.
And I got to be in an opportunity where I could come in instead of doing a turnaround or a startup. Now there's a solid foundation and we just get the fun part, which is running and growing responsibly. So we've got a great leadership team, and that's been a big part of putting together the pieces to make sure we've got the right leaders in the company.
Sure.
And I get the opportunity to sit with them on a weekly basis, and we grow as leaders together, and we look at strategic vision. But I guess the biggest thing is just bringing that foresight to say, okay, where are we going next? And what can TraVek do next? We've been doing things great for a long time, but what's next?
Yeah. How are we going to grow
Yeah.
even though we're already highly successful?
Right.
And so what are some of those aspirational goals that you guys have in 2025?
Yeah, so 2025 is going to be a big year for us. We had a solid year this year, and it's funny that you bring it up. We're actually just in the process of sitting down as a leadership team and identifying what that vision looks like for 2025.
Great.
We've gone through that budgeting process as a company, like most companies do.
Sure.
But we sit down and we have about a half-day session and we plan out the vision for the next year.
Okay.
And part of that is, what businesses do we want to look at? Are there verticals that maybe we're not in that we want to jump into?
Right.
We have a roofing vertical that I talked about a little bit. A big thing for us is growing that part of our business, finding some really awesome strategic leaders in the roofing side of the business, and then always looking for opportunities to, again, have thought leadership experience. TraVek University, we want to grow that. And really make our footprint that much bigger in the Phoenix area. We're looking to conquer this area before we move on to new areas. And so 2025 is a big year for us to really grow that roofing side, as well as add some really fun stuff to the remodeling side.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I love that you guys have taken the time to really intentionally decide what those goals are going to be. I think a lot of business owners skip that and they just think it's going to happen.
Sure.
But it's not. You got to have the data. You got to look to see what happened in the last year, what your budget is, and what you really want to do in the following year. So
Yeah.
kudos to you guys for getting ahead of it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I always follow the age-old adage that you hear that, you fail to plan, and that means you plan to fail.
Yep, you're right.
And so I'm big on always getting in front of. I think that companies have this problem where they're reactive all the time,
Sure.
and so they look historically at what's happened,
Yep.
and then they react to situations as opposed to what I call turning the headlights on
Yep.
and looking forward as to, okay, how can we be proactive? And that's through planning, strategizing, and making sure that, hey, we know there's going to be bumps along the way. Let's identify what those are going to be first, and then we can plan for how we succeed.
Right.
If you just try to handle those as they are flying at you, you're never going to do a good job at it.
Yeah. No, I think you're so right about that. Just being kind of on the offense instead of the defense, that you're more likely to be successful. So
For sure.
awesome. So what is a design trend you think needs to die like immediately?
Well, there's some urgency in that question. Die is a pretty strong language. It's funny because my designers, everybody has their own opinions and their own styles. Some are more modern, some are more elaborate in the things that they want to do. Typically, we'll put this in the homeowner's seat, and then we'll give some advice. But there are some things that we see that just need to go away, especially in Arizona.
Okay.
One of them are these block walls of glass. You may have seen these when you walk into friends' houses. They are hideous. From a design standpoint, they just don't look good. Functionally, they're not great either. The other thing that we're seeing is, you see a lot of these tub shower combinations, and from a design standpoint, it is so backwards on what people really want functionally today. And so we're doing a ton of beach entry showers or curbless showers.
Okay.
One, because it just looks better, and everybody wants a big, beautiful tiled shower with rain heads and not to worry about this. But the other thing that we're seeing, which is interesting, is people are combining households.
Really?
And with the real estate market the way that it is, they're bringing in elderly parents to live with them, and they're asking us to say, well, how do we slice up our home to make it to where we have two living environments that we can coexist in? And somebody who's aging in place doesn't want to step over the top of a bathtub, doesn't even want to step over the curb of a shower, but they still want to enjoy great hygiene and a beautiful bathroom. And so from a design standpoint, that old school shower door that's got the chrome trim that we've all seen and the bathtub next to it that Arizona loves to do, that stuff's got to go away. Just modernize that bathroom and make it easier for somebody to use, and also make it more enjoyable and beautiful to be in your home.
That's great. Yeah. I agree with the ice block. Like, it needs to go.
It's got to go. That's horrible.
It is horrible. I'm not a fan either.
Well, and it's interesting because, some of our designers have very strong opinions on certain design things, but you would be floored at the things that homeowners, we talk about non-negotiables and what your compromises are. And there are some things that homeowners are like, this is a non-negotiable. I have to have this. And the designer's like, I don't love it, but it's your home and it's your money and it's your dream, so we'll do it. But
reality, not my reality, but it'll be your reality.
Exactly.
So I read recently that quartz and quartzite actually can cause health issues like lung cancer. Is that true?
It's interesting. There's always going to be perspectives out there, and obviously I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to give medical advice to anybody or say that it's damaging somebody's health or not. But what we do find is when it comes to stones on your countertop, there's man-made stones and then there's natural stones. And so anytime something is man-made and they have to infuse different materials, you're going to get some things that may be health concerns for different people in their homes. What we're actually seeing is people are moving more towards a porcelain countertop. It's not cheap, but at the end of the day, purchasing the porcelain tends to be around the same as some of the higher end countertops that you're seeing, but durability wise, it lasts forever.
Wow.
It's not going to chip. It doesn't break. Now, when they're modifying it and they're fabricating the porcelain, that's where the time takes and that's where the cost comes in, because there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it.
Sure.
But once it's in the home, it is beautiful. You can have any pattern, and you don't have some of those complications that you would think about with some of the other man-made stones, where they're infusing some different product and people might have some concerns around.
Interesting. I got to look at the porcelain countertops. I didn't even know they were doing that.
They're beautiful. And it's not like you think about, a porcelain toilet that's fragile or whatever it may be. Once they're done fabricating it, it is so durable and so beautiful. You may have seen these cooktops. We do these every once in a while. that are under the countertops.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even tell that there's a cooktop there. Well, in order to do that, you should really use a porcelain countertop because they're heat resistant. They're all of these things that allow you to have longevity with the countertop, where some of these other products, not that they're bad, they're still good products, but
Sure.
we're just seeing a design trend
Okay.
moving towards porcelain.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what do you like to do in your free time? You're so busy with work and you've got a big, huge role at TraVek. What do you like to do in your personal life?
I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. I always have been.
Cool.
I've got, family is really important to me. We've got 5 kids, and that's spending that quality time is really important. So whether that's on the lake, wakeboarding, riding dirt bikes with my boys, we're a pretty athletic family, so we'll play soccer together and football, and really just that quality time with family. But we moved from the Pacific Northwest, which is kind of the mecca for hiking and camping and just all the beauties. And so we're in the process now of just exploring Arizona and all the different trails and hiking opportunities and things that can maybe create a little bit of an adrenaline.
Nice. Yeah. And how did you feel about the summers in Arizona coming from the Pacific Northwest?
Boy, they're hot.
Yeah.
My wife has never lived anywhere but the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
And so she's known a lot of rain throughout her life, and she was ready for some more sunshine.
Okay.
I don't think either of us were really prepared for the length of the heat or the severity of the heat.
Right.
I spoke at a conference down here, it was probably 3 years ago, in the middle of the summer.
Okay.
And I brought my wife with me. And so I got done speaking. And of course, I went to our hotel room because I figured that's where she would be. It was like 118 degrees.
Wow.
And I couldn't find her anywhere. So I'm calling her and I'm like, where are you?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I rented a bike down from the resort and I'm riding down Old Scottsdale. And this is just so awesome. And so the heat didn't faze her at all. And I'm like, of course, she's like, there was plenty of bicycles. And I'm like, of course there were. Nobody else is foolish enough to be riding a bike around. So she loves the heat, and I'm good with it too. I enjoy the warm weather. And again, we go to the lake and we do a lot of things outdoors, and people probably think we're crazy because we're the family in the neighborhood that's outside during the summer doing things, while everybody else is locked up with their air conditioning on. But
I love that she was doing that. I love that she's like riding her
That's
bike.
crazy.
She has no one else riding, and she's like, "This is so great. I love this." You're like, "Okay, we're moving. We're moving to Arizona."
Fine, we'll go. We'll go to Arizona.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. And what are the age ranges for your kids?
So we're a bit of a Brady bunch. So
Okay.
she had 2, I had 2, and then we've got one together.
Oh, that's nice. I love that.
And it's interesting because the kids did such a great job of melding together, which is hard to do with a blended family.
Sure.
And we really, really thought long and hard about having one together because we didn't want to mess up that really good thing that we had going on. But we decided to, and it was the best decision ever. It just bonded all the kids.
Oh, nice.
So our oldest is 18. We just sent her off to college. She's going to
cool.
OSU, which is fun. And then our youngest is 5. And then there's about a 9-year gap between our youngest and the next. So we kind of hit the reset button, which has had its own set of really interesting, fun things. It keeps you young, I guess.
Yeah, it does. I always say that. Being a parent keeps you young. It doesn't matter if you have them like in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s. Like, you're still young all the time. They
Absolutely.
just give you that youthfulness. So, well, that's awesome. Congratulations. You
Thank
have
you.
such a well-rounded personal life and professional life. You're just killing it.
I appreciate you saying that. It's I think sometimes you think you're focusing too much in one area and not enough in the other, and taking that hard look in the mirror and saying, "Oh, I think I can do it all, but I got to give enough time and attention to all things." So.
How do you strike a balance with all of that?
I think just having a shut off button. Early in my career, when I was just so driven in the tech world moves really fast, and so I think that I missed that balance, and I had to learn pretty quickly that it's okay to turn the phone off. It's okay to leave work at work. And one thing that I train all of my sales reps in is being present. Whatever moment you're in, being present. That could be with a customer that you're sitting down with. Don't think about your next appointment. Don't think about the email that you just got. And I think it's the same thing with how you give focus to each area of your life. Like, be present in the moment that you're in. Right now, we're having this great conversation. I don't want to check my phone for social media or an email that I've got coming up. Like, I think really just enjoying and being present in each moment creates an opportunity where you can have balance in all areas.
Yep, I think that's right. I think that's really important. I think we're so sucked in with social media and notifications to kind of like always be aware that they're coming in, and that's not necessarily good because
Yeah.
you're just missing out at what you're doing at the time, and then you're really not present anywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree.
good job. Like, congratulations. You're just, like I said, you're killing it. It's fun to listen to your podcast, to see all the guests that you guys have on. It's fun to see your trucks when I'm driving around town. And I feel like I see your commercials too. You guys have
Yeah, we're on the
marketing.
radio.
Yeah.
And again, we put a lot of video out there. We put a lot of social content
Yeah.
out there. You'll hear us on the radio. You'll see us on social. You'll see
Sure.
our videos and commercials. And
Awesome.
we just want everybody, wherever they look, that they see TraVek and they know that
Yep.
it's a company that cares, that we want to give you the right experience, and that you're not just a number. So it's
great.
big for us.
That's great. And where can people find you?
Best thing, again, is just to go to the website,
Okay.
www.travek.com. Our phone number's on there.
Yep.
We've got a form fill that they can fill out to have one of our designers come out, and they'll do a free consultation and look at your project, look at your
Nice.
house. Same thing on the roofing side. We offer free inspections. So if you've got any questions about your roof, or you don't know the age of it,
Yep.
have one of our roofers come out. They'll look at it. They'll pull up some tiles, or they'll look at the foam and just make sure that you're in a good spot.
Right.
And if it doesn't need work, then they'll tell you it looks great and doesn't need work. But
Call us
there's
later.
no cost. Yeah, call us when you do need it.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Okay, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on and taking the time to come today. And it was just fun chatting with you.
Yeah, you bet. This was really great. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to Talk Legal to Me. Remember, you can listen to us everywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple. And if you want to watch along, visit my YouTube channel at Lawyer Gordi. Until next time, stay informed, stay legal, and stay fabulous, besties.